The UFC recently announced the main and co-main event of UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi going down July 25th, and I wanted to give my early predictions and breakdowns for several fights that have been announced for this card, because I think that this is a sick main event between Magomed Ankalaev and Khalil Rountree Jr. in the main event. And once again, Khalil, man, I feel like the UFC gave Khalil this little ticket that he just gets, he gets so many holes that can get punched into it where he just kind of just cashes it in each time. It's like Khalil Rountree's going to a carnival and he keeps cashing in these tickets to win prizes. That's how I look at Rountree in the light heavyweight division. He'll lose a fight. It'll be competitive. It'll be entertaining. Then he just goes, here's my ticket. And the UFC's like, top 5 fight. Gives him another ticket, top 5 fight. I'm convinced that Khalil Rountree could go on a Tai Tuivasa type of losing streak, and of course that would be to all top 5 opponents, and he would still be fighting top 5 guys for the rest of his career. Now, to be fair, I feel like a big reason the UFC rewards Khalil with many, many big fights these days is because he's got a super exciting style, and he's basically kill or be killed. He's going to go out there, kickbox for the whole duration of the fight, and sometimes he gets knocked out, sometimes he knocks people out, or he can go out there and put on a Muay Thai masterclass like he did against Jamal Hill in a 25-minute fight. So to be fair to Khalil, I understand why he gets these opportunities. I just have an idea of a fight that I would have rather have seen here. So we'll talk about that in just a second. We'll break down this fight. I'll give my early pick because it's a sick fight either way, man. Both of these guys, super high-level strikers. But to me, the one that just has me scratching my head is Umar Nurmagomedov versus David Martinez. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about this in just a minute because I feel like there's multiple ways to look at this fight. And by the way, this fight isn't even remotely competitive. Umar Nurmagomedov is among the elites in the bantamweight division because when we look at the 135-pound weight class, it feels like the top 5, 6, 7 guys are just leaps and bounds ahead of the rest of the division, with maybe a few guys on the come up like a Peyton Talbot, who I could very much see being one of those guys. But David Martinez is not among the elites in the weight class. And I like David Martinez. I think I've picked him in every single fight since he's been in the UFC. He's been doing some great things. He's an exciting striker. He is nowhere near the level of Umar. He's going to get dominated in this fight. So we're going to talk about, a couple things here, why I think this fight was booked, but ultimately maybe the bigger picture of what is going on with the UFC when it comes to booking fights nowadays. We'll take a look at the bantamweight rankings and maybe what, fight I would have done for Umar Nurmagomedov. Either way, still a solid fight, but definitely shouldn't be happening. We got some other fights on here that we'll also discuss. I'll give some early picks. And Islam Dulatov finally making his return. I feel like the last time we saw him fight was on that Holloway-Poirier 3 card, so it's been a while. I'm excited to see him back because Islam is one of these dudes that the UFC needs to give him the slow build treatment. He's got the it factor, right? The dude's a model. He's got the striking style. He's ferocious on the feet. He's got the it factor, but I feel like they got to slowly build him, and hopefully we can get this dude more active moving forward. So that's what they're doing here, in my opinion, by giving him Wellington Turman. So we'll talk more about the card in just a minute, but let's start with the co-main event, then we'll do the main event, and then I'll get to the rest of the card because I got so much to say about this. Because I guess the way that you can look at this is, well, what do we want Umar to do? Just sit on the sideline and wait around? Because when you look at the bantamweight division, right now you got Sean O'Malley versus Amin Zahabi, right? Well, let me pull up the bantamweight rankings so we can really take a good look at this. So what do we have here? We have Petr Yan as the champion. Okay, he's probably going to be fighting Merab Dvalishvili in the trilogy, which makes all the sense in the world to me. And listen, I would personally, if O'Malley beats Amin Zahabi, I would like to see O'Malley and Yan run it back. However, the rightful thing to do is give Merab the trilogy. The dude has been crazy active, was out here trying to set records by defending his belt again, right? Fought like 4 times in a year. So Merab has earned the trilogy with Petr Yan. So this fight, I assume, is what's going to be next. You have Sean O'Malley versus Amin Zahabi. Song just fought Davison Figueiredo, so considering that Umar's wanting to fight in July, neither one of those guys is probably going to be ready because Song versus Umar would be a sick fight. That's a fight that I would love to see, and I remember a while ago there were rumors of that potentially happening, right? So that's a sick fight I hope we get at some point. But Corey Sandhagen versus Mario Bautista, sick fight, going down at International Fight Week, UFC 329. So, okay, right? David Martinez is ranked 8. So when you look at the rest of the rankings, the only guy that's essentially available to fight right away here would be David Martinez. And I feel like David, in a way, he's earned a big fight, but to earn an Umar Nurmagomedov fight is crazy to me. Now, I know people are going to say, whoa, man. Umar won just a few fights, and then he got the number 1 ranked Corey Sandhagen. So there is some truth to that. It's no harm, no foul that Martinez is getting, the big opportunity, because I like David Martinez, and I think he's earned a big opportunity. It's just the fact that Umar's past 2 fights since losing to Merab, he fought back against Mario Bautista, fought back against Deiveson Figueiredo. So it's when you fought back that many times and you had a super close competitive fight with the champion in Merab Dvalishvili at the time was the champion Merab. That's one of the greatest bantamweights of all time. And the buildup was crazy. They don't like each other. So it's like, how are you going to fight back twice? And now you're fighting back for a 3rd time again here against David Martinez. What does Umar have to gain from this fight? Essentially nothing. David Martinez is the one with everything to gain. So like I said, cool for David Martinez that he gets this kind of opportunity. But to me, like, Peyton Talbot is a guy that could have been deserving of this, because ever since losing to Raoni Barcelos and getting dominated on the ground, Peyton Talbot's looked like a monster. Look what he did to Henry Cejudo. I think that Peyton Talbot is better than David Martinez. I think Peyton Talbot would destroy David Martinez. I think he would knock him out. So I would have liked to have seen, if anyone's going to get, that big opportunity at the back end of this division here, it should be Barcelos. But to be fair, Umar already knocked him out, so that doesn't really make any sense. I would have done Peyton Talbot versus Umar Nurmagomedov. That's what I would have done. But I don't know if Talbot wasn't available. I don't really know, but it brings me to the point of the UFC, by doing all this mix and matching around, like, some of the fights make sense, but when they go out of order and don't always follow the rankings, it kind of leaves for some chaos and leaves fighters in no man's land. And that's kind of what we have going on here with Umar Nurmagomedov. Fought back twice, against Deiveson Figueiredo, against Mario Bautista. And again, Mario, super high-level fighter. I think that he is one of the most elite bantamweights, on the UFC roster. So that was a competitive fight. Umar still clearly won, dominated Deiveson Figueiredo, but we just saw Song submit Deiveson. So even though Umar dominated Figgy, people are now like, whoa, man, what does that say about Umar, considering the fact that Song could submit Deiveson, even though, it's MMA, anything can happen, weird things happen, it's just how the sport goes. It would go that way, right? Song being known for being a powerful striker, not really known for submitting people, especially not in the UFC. He goes out and submits a really good grappler in Figueiredo. Umar is a better grappler than Song, at least when it comes to the submission threat, and he doesn't submit Figgy. So that's just how the fight game goes. It's a cool fight, but to me, it's not a good fight, because Umar Nurmagomedov is going to destroy David Martinez. And like I said, what does this do for Umar? Other than keep him active, and I get it, you lost to Merab. It's not like he got the doors blown off of him. It was a competitive fight. So to fight back twice, a tough competitor in Mario, a legend of the flyweight division in Deiveson Figueiredo, who to me is clearly a shell of himself at this point. You weren't able to finish Figgy. Now Song just did it. So now people are like, well, Umar's been a little bit underwhelming. He's not finishing. I'm just saying that's what people are saying, especially now that Song just finished Deiveson Figueiredo. So I think Umar, he should get a finish in this fight. Like, the way that I'm looking at this matchup is, I know David Martinez is dog tough. I don't think he's ever been finished. His only loss in his career, he's 14-1. The only loss was a split decision a while ago. He's looked really good since coming into the UFC. Right? And I picked him. I think he was a big underdog against Rob Font, right? A lot of people were sleeping on him in that fight, and I picked him to win that fight. I picked him to also beat Chito Vera. The story with David Martinez is he's a fast striker. He's got a ton of movement, moves a lot, man. Just an energizer bunny early on in the fight, throwing a bunch of kicks, timing good punches on the way in. The problem is Martinez, from what I've seen, it seems like this guy slows down. So that, to me, is going to be those areas to where Umar can capitalize, to where I think he can get David out of there. And I think for Umar to make a statement in order to get that title shot that I know he wants, I think he needs to finish David Martinez. It's not to say that he can't go out there, put up a dominant performance, win by decision, clean sweep across the cards, 30-27, maybe even a 10-8 round in there. It's just the fact of the way that this division is laid out, man. I could just see the writing on the wall. Like, say O'Malley, beats Ayman Zahabi. Say knocks him out at the Freedom 250 card. The UFC is going to be probably tempted to do O'Malley versus Jan too. And even if they don't do that, you got O'Malley waiting in the wings, right? You got Corey Sandhagen versus Mario. But you see what I'm saying? So the water gets kind of murky in this weight class right now. That's the way that it feels. It feels like Umar's in no man's land. It's either be inactive, sit around, or take the number 8 ranked guy here in David Martinez. And like I said, no shade on David Martinez. He's getting the big opportunity. He looked good against Rob Font, squeaked by against Chito Vera in, glorious Chito fashion, low output as usual. Oh, I'm going to come out here and throw more, and doesn't throw more. But David Martinez is a little bit of a puzzle on the feet, right? Because he moves a lot. He's got high output, but he slows down. And I think Umar Nurmagomedov, right? We've seen Umar's got this bad, habit where he dips his head off the center line to the left, to where we were seeing Batista. He caught him with that knee, started to throw that high kick, to where potentially that's something that I think David can look to exploit in a fight here against Umar Nurmagomedov. So I've liked what I've seen from David. I'm not counting him out, but by the same token, I think I'll say this, he's very outgunned in this fight. Umar, a much better grappler. And I think that even though Martinez is good on the feet, that's his bread and butter, I still think Umar's a better striker. I think maybe Martinez's hands are a little bit better, but Umar's got really good kicks, really good distance management. And this is just, you're beating Rob Font. Yeah, you're beating Vera. You're not finishing those guys. And now you're fighting one of the most elite bantamweights we've ever seen in Umar. Umar Nurmagomedov is going to dominate him. This, to me, is nothing more than Umar wanting to stay active and continue to get those reps in there, get some cage time at the top of the weight class before he gets put back in there for another title opportunity. So I think Umar will dominate David Martinez. It'll be competitive maybe for the first round. I think Umar should take him down early. Martinez will slow down. And then Umar will eventually get to the back and find some sort of submission. So I feel very confident Umar Nurmagomedov dominates David Martinez and finds a way to submit him and get him out of there. Main event, Magomed Ankalaev versus Khalil Rountree. This is a sick fight, man. This fight is so good. And, we could clown on Khalil Rountree for getting all of these opportunities, but like I was saying at the beginning of the video, Khalil's entertaining. He's got some of the best Muay Thai in the UFC, right? Recently been training with Khamzat, was a part of his camp, leading up to the Khamzat Strickland fight. So I think Rountree's getting better. I think his gas tank hopefully has improved. Just because you're training with Khamzat doesn't mean that Khalil's now going to be some sort of world-class grappler. I don't think, watch Khalil come out here, shoot a takedown, take down Ankalaev and submit him in the first round. That'd be absolutely crazy. So I don't think that Khalil's ground game is going to get that much better. Maybe his takedown defense has gotten better, right? And he's always had decent takedown defense. But the reality is, I think that this is a kickboxing fight. I think you have the Muay Thai Rountree. He's going to be very explosive early, to where I think he'll take a couple early rounds, right? Probably take the first and second round. We've seen, even in the fights that Rountree has recently been losing at light heavyweight. Look at the title fight he got against Poatan. Had a ton of early success, was able to take some rounds off of Alex. But then he slowed down. Poatan put the work on him and was able to put him away. Look at the Yuri Prohaska fight. Rountree having a ton of success, winning rounds. Yuri's behind. And then in Yuri fashion, the come-from-behind victory, Rountree slows down and eventually just melts to the pressure of Prohaska and gets brutally KO'd. But even before that, Rountree in that 5-rounder against Jamal Hill, he looked good because he was able to manage his gas tank, because Jamal Hill is one of the most overrated light heavyweights of all time, and honestly one of the worst champions we've ever seen in the UFC. And I know you could say, well, Jamal's not the same guy since he got injured and, gave up the title, and which was great that Jamal did that, right? And I respect that. Him and Yuri doing that when they're injured, they're going to be away. They just kind of vacate the title. They don't want to hold up the division. I respect that, man. I think Jamal Hill, he is a solid fighter, but he's overrated. He's just overrated, and I feel like that might be fair to say that he's not the same guy since the injury, man. I mean, he waddles around out there like a freaking penguin. His footwork is horrible, and he just stood in front of Rountree, and he did nothing. He was literally like a heavy bag just wading forward, doing nothing, and Rountree was just obliterating his legs. I mean, just teeing off on him. It was an easy fight for Rountree that he just coasted to victory. Magomed Ankalaev is not just going to sit at range and do nothing and stare at Khalil Rountree and try to figure out what his tattoos are. Magomed Ankalaev, he's a much better boxer than Rountree. He's much faster than a guy like Jamal Hill. He's got much better footwork, much higher fight IQ in terms of setting things up. The way I see this fight is Rountree will take the first couple rounds, then he'll slow down in obvious Rountree fashion, notorious Rountree fashion, and then that's when Ankalaev will take over and his boxing will start to pull ahead, and I think he can find a mid to late round TKO stoppage of Khalil here. The thing that worries me is, as I was saying, the way that Rountree slows down is he has these big explosive movements early, lands a bunch of shots, right? I think he'll attack the leg of Ankalaev, which that's smart investment because that's like the biggest weakness of Ankalaev. We saw Alex destroy his legs. We saw Jan Blachowicz especially destroy his legs. And who knows how Ankalaev's going to bounce back, right? We've seen Rountree get KO'd and bounce back. We haven't seen Ankalaev get KO'd and how he's going to get bounced back. Like, this was a guy that was basically undefeated outside of the slip up against Johnny Walker to where the shenanigans that went on there. But so I don't really count that as a loss, right? The draw with Jan Blachowicz, I thought Ankalaev won the fight, but either way it was close. Ankalaev's first real loss was his last fight. This dude was the champion. Beat Alex to win the belt. Got absolutely steamrolled and ran over in the second fight. Alex completely destroyed him. But part of the game plan was Alex is like, look, I'm not going to give this guy the chance to be all speedy and, tactical on the outside. I'm just going to get in Ankalaev's face, pressure him, make him uncomfortable, butcher the legs, and then just take him out, which is exactly what Alex did. And it's what he should have did the first time. And clearly, Alex was compromised in that first fight. We clearly know that now. So just because you lose to probably the greatest striker we've ever seen in the sport, at least when it comes to kickboxing, like no harm, no foul. Ankalaev is still really good, man. Very, very good. One of the most high-level strikers in this weight class for sure. I feel like the only guy now that Poatan has left the weight class that can beat Ankalaev is Ulberg. I think Yuri is a little bit of a scary fight for Ankalaev, but I still think Ankalaev can beat Yuri. The way to get to Magomed is to pressure him early, take away the space, and don't allow him to think. Is Rountree going to be able to do that? Maybe, but that's not really Rountree's style. He's one of these pretty style Muay Thai strikers. He likes a clean technical fight. And I think the better grappler is Ankalaev. But having said that, I've been saying this for forever, Ankalaev is not that good of a grappler. I know he's got a little blast double. We saw it against Blachowicz where he can put you on your back if he needs to. And, he's got solid, overall ground skills. And his takedown defense is good. But he's not that great of a grappler, right? I think he could out-grapple Rountree in this fight because I don't think Rountree's takedown defense is, spectacular or anything. But I think this is a striking fight. I think it plays out on the feet. People say, Ankalaev's so boring, man, his style. The dude's a high-level striker. The reason that a lot of his fights have been boring is because early on in the UFC, guys would chase after Ankalaev, like Ion Cutelaba, Johnny Walker, and then what starts to happen is you leave yourself open to counters, and that's what Magomed likes to do. He likes to counter you with the check hook, the left hand right down the middle, and he can put you away. He's got a nasty high kick as well. I think this fight is pretty simple. Rountree, he'll be banging up the lead leg of Ankalaev, probably win the first couple rounds, and then he'll start to slow down. Ankalaev's boxing will take over. The front kicks to the body, take some wind out of the sail, and then Ankalaev will hurt him up along the octagon side. Rountree will curl up into a ball. Ankalaev will be following up with some ground and pound. The referee will step in. We see that with Rountree, man. The minute that he gets tired, he starts to fade and melt. So the question is, can Ankalaev push the pace enough to get Rountree to that point? That's what's going to be interesting because I think Ankalaev's a better boxer. I think Rountree's got the better elbows and knees. When it comes to kicks, Ankalaev's actually got some good kicks. So Ankalaev, to me, better cardio, better boxing, better footwork. I know Rountree's got that Muay Thai style, but he's more linear, in and out, where Ankalaev, there's a lot of movement. So as long as Rountree doesn't blitz him early and try to do, I guess, what Poatan did, which I don't think Rountree is capable of, Ankalaev should win this fight. I think he's the better overall fighter, and I think he's faster, and I think he can mix it up well, drag the fight out, take advantage of Rountree slowing down in the mid to later rounds, and be able to put him away. So I'm going Ankalaev. Early prediction here by, I'll say, a fourth round TKO stoppage. This is a sick fight, though. Two really, really good strikers. So good main event. Co-main event, just a weird fight, honestly. Basically, I look at it as nothing more than Umar Nurmagomedov trying to stay active and really just scrambling with the matchmaking here. When you're the UFC and you look at the bantamweight division, the way that they've kind of matchmade, it's like, it's just a clutter fest. You got the number 2 guy in Umar who's been at the top here, and he's been fighting back. This will be the 3rd fight in a row, man. Right? Got the big step up against Sandhagen, dominated him, lost to Merab in a close fight, and then now again, man. So it's just weird seeing where the bantamweight division is at this point, and that's when you go out of order, like Umar Nurmagomedov versus Sean O'Malley. That would have been a great fight to make. That would have been a sick fight, O'Malley versus Sandhagen, and I know that you could say, well, Bautista, they could have done Bautista versus Davison, right? But I know that they wanted Song in China basically to give him a favorable matchup, to give him a win, and same thing at the White House. O'Malley hopefully giving him a good matchup here to beat Ayman Zahabi is how I think that they're looking at it. So by trying to do that favorable matchmaking and get guys that you want to get certain wins, this is kind of what happens, and that's why Umar is kind of in no man's land. So Umar will dominate David. I think that Magomed Ankalaev will get a mid to late round TKO. And then the rest of this card is, it's actually looking kind of good, right? Obviously, this is not the full card, but Rizvan Kuniev versus Tyrell Fortune, Rizvan Kuniev is going to destroy Tyrell Fortune. Rizvan Kuniev is so much better than Fortune. And it's not that Kuniev is some sort of world beater, but people forget, man, Rizvan Kuniev sent Jailton Almeida his packing. Has sent him his walking papers and some bags to give packing because that was Almeida's last fight in the UFC. The UFC cut him after that. Right? And I picked Kuniev to win that fight. And I thought Kuniev beat Blades as well. I thought he got robbed in that fight. So Kuniev looks blobbish, but he's actually not a blob in the division. He's actually got decent striking. His takedown defense is really, really good. So Fortune, a guy that's known for being a solid wrestler, he's not taking, if Jailton Almeida is not taking down Kuniev, Fortune's definitely not taking down Kuniev. And then what else does Fortune have? His gas tank isn't that good and he just spams right hands. And I know that Fortune, he trains with Waldo, man. He trains with Waldo. Nothing that he's learning from Waldo is rubbing off on his game. He's super one-dimensional. He basically was going life and death with a washed Marcin Tybura. That tells me everything I need to know about Fortune. And I get it. It's his UFC debut. I wasn't impressed with Fortune from what I saw prior to the UFC. The reason I picked him to beat Tybura is because I know that Tybura is full-blown washed. So that fight shouldn't have been that competitive. Buffer even thought it was close because he said that Tybura won. No, he read the wrong winner. You guys remember that? It was kind of funny. But Rizvan Kuniev easily wins this fight. I think he probably wins a decision, if not a mid to late round TKO stoppage. Kuniev's better than everything compared to Tyrell Fortune. He's better than Fortune at everything. Easy win for Rizvan Kuniev. Walter Walker, Thomas Peterson. Thomas Peterson coming off of a solid win over Guilherme Pat. We picked him in that fight. So many people, man, Guilherme Pat, the next Cyril Gane. And to be fair, Guilherme Pat doesn't look like a blob. He's in solid condition for a heavyweight. He's actually fast, very flexible, shows these flashes of having skill, but he just doesn't put it together. He's lazy, just sits up against the fence, doesn't do anything, throws one strike every 5 minutes. That's why I picked Peterson to beat him. Peter Griffin could be busier, right? He had the grappling and he dang near knocked out Pat. And then Pat was after the fight, man, how about that chin? Dude, you literally lost to Thomas Peterson, and you're out there gloating about your chin. Just an absolutely embarrassing performance. And I know that Pat went out there, and I picked him to beat AJ Fry because it was clear that neither of them, in my opinion, are UFC caliber, but at least Guilherme has the upside. He destroyed AJ Fry, but Fry nowhere near UFC caliber, man. Walter Walker, much better than Thomas Peterson. But again, Peterson's got, solid grappling. I think on the feet, Peterson might be a little bit better, but I don't know, man. I know Walter Walker striking a suspect, but his submission skills are nasty. Probably heel hooks Thomas Peterson in the first round. Magomed Tchalov making his UFC debut against Brendan Ribeiro. I mean, Magomed's got some power, but it's his debut. I don't know. I feel like he's maybe a guy that could be a little bit overhyped. Got to do some more film study on him to really know more what he's about. But I've seen he's got some knockout power. Brendan Ribeiro had that moment early against Abdul Rahman, who I think is way better than Magomed. So maybe Brendan Ribeiro turns back the hands of time and pulls this one off. So early lean, I'll say Ribeiro. I got to do a little bit more deep diving on Magomed. But Brendan Ribeiro, I know he's not that durable and he kind of melts, but he's proven at least in the UFC compared to a guy like Magomed. So it feels like the UFC is probably trying to set up Magomed for a KO victory here. But early lean, I'll say Brendan Ribeiro. And then Steve Erceg, Ramazan Tamirov, the return of Tamirov. Didn't this guy pop or something? So it'll be interesting to see what he looks like when he returns. The guy is skilled, though. He's skilled in this weight class, right? Beat Charles Johnson. He's got a solid skill set, well-rounded, dangerous on the feet. He's got power, which in the flyweight division is scary if you got a guy with devastating power. But I think Steve Erceg's better. The only thing that scares me is the durability and the chin of Steve in this fight. If he gets clipped by Tamirov, I could see him definitely getting KO'd, right? We've seen Steve Erceg get knocked out. We've seen that he's chinny. But at the end of the day, Erceg's got some clean boxing. He looked really good against Tim Elliott. And even though Tamirov does have some solid grappling, I think Erceg might be the better grappler. At least defensively, I think Erceg will be good enough to where he dictates where this fight goes. And I could even see Erceg potentially out-grappling Ramazan. So early lean, I'm going to say Erceg wins this fight by a competitive decision. I think he's the cleaner striker. Tamirov has more power, but I like the technicalities of Steve Erceg, and he's been in there consistently against the best guys in this weight class. I like Steve Erceg a lot, man. I think he's very good. Islam Dulatov, Wellington Turman. So Wellington Turman, which is kind of a guy in the UFC, right? Then started training with Poatan and, shaving the head, copying the style a little bit, the movement, the calf kicks. And to be fair, Turman actually looked a little bit better, but he's been away for a while. I think he was injured or something, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been a while since we've seen him. He does have some solid grappling. this is essentially the UFC tossing a bone and a layup here to Islam Dulatov for him to get the one-handed jam. Like, Islam Dulatov should destroy Wellington Turman. And I'm pretty sure Islam, he was impressive on DWCS, got the nasty KO. Pretty sure against Adam Fuggett, right, in his debut, brutally KO'd him. Dulatov's got the goods, man. He's got the it factor. He's got the style. He's got the swag. And he's got the striking, too. He's a very, very accurate striker. The problem with Dulatov is the takedown defense and the grappling game, very unproven. And then also on the feet, doesn't move his head very well to where he's very hittable. So I think the further he climbs up the division, especially the fact that welterweight is really loaded, I could see some issues in the near future. But for now, I think the UFC gives him the slow build. He's young. He's 6'3". He's got a good frame in this weight class, 75-inch reach. I think he tunes up Wellington Turman and probably knocks him out in the first round. This is a very good matchup for Dulatov to show out. And then Ishmael Bonfim, Axel Sola. Ishmael is the worst Bonfim brother. We all know that by now. And to be fair, I mean, he's very exciting, very explosive early, but the minute the gas tank goes, this dude just kind of folds. And in a fight with Axel Sola, it looks like Nick Jonas, a Jonas brother. Axel Sola was impressive in the debut, right? Got the job done over Reese McKee, I believe. Had that crazy back and forth war with Mason Jones, which was a crazy fight. I would pick Mason Jones to beat Bonfim pretty easily. So I think Axel Sola battles some early adversity, maybe gets rocked early, but then Ishmael slows down, and then I think Axel Sola can find a way to get him out of there, out-damage him on the cards, or I think he finds like a later stoppage in the fight. So I think Axel Sola beats Bonfim. And then Yuran Salty Baldiev versus Dustin Jacoby. I know that Salty Baldiev has looked very impressive, right? He's got some solid grappling, power on the feet, the more powerful guy all around. But I could see Dustin Jacoby fraud checking him, man. Dustin Jacoby's been looking really, really good recently. And I know that Jacoby's got a suspect chin, suspect durability, but all those years in Glory Kickboxing is a tactical striker. And if he could avoid the power and getting KO'd by that one big shot of Salty Baldiev, and we've seen Jacoby's got solid takedown defense. So if he keeps it at range, on the feet with the footwork, fights behind the jab and all that movement, it was all that movement. I think Dustin Jacoby can win the fight, man. I think that he could actually fraud check Salty Baldiev in this fight. I think Dustin Jacoby, I feel like a lot of people are going to pick Salty Baldiev to win the fight. And I know he's dangerous, right? Got to think about it a little bit more, but Dustin Jacoby's looked really, really good. He's a slick striker on the feet. And if you can't knock him out, he puts a lot of points on the board, and he's a guy that can easily get ahead of you. One of the better volume strikers in the division. So solid card, looking pretty good so far. Interesting matchup here with Umar. Again, Khalil Rountree punching that ticket, turning into tickets, man, for the prizes to keep getting those top 5 fights. But like I said, I feel like the UFC does it because Rountree is must-see TV, and the light heavyweight division's in a weird spot, right? Alberg KO's Yuri. Alberg's injured. He's going to be out for a while. Yuri just got KO'd, so he just fought Rountree, right? So maybe you could have done Ankalaev. I would have loved to have seen Paulo Costa versus Magomed Ankalaev. I think that would have been a great fight because Costa just destroyed Azamat Mirzakhanov, put on a absolute clinic of how an orthodox style of fighter can butcher a southpaw. I mean, that was beautiful. Ripping kicks to the inside leg, kicks to the body, kicks upstairs. Costa versus Ankalaev would have been a sick fight. And then the winner of that could have fought for the belt. Because if Rountree does beat Ankalaev, what are you going to give him a title shot off of a one-fight win streak? So Costa beat Kopylov, moved up, butchered Mirzakhanov, and look what Kopylov just did to Marco Tulio. So that Costa win has aged very, very well, right? Costa's looked really good. I would have liked to have seen Ankalaev versus Costa in a 5-round main event. That would have been a sick fight. So I would have rather have seen that, but this is still a sick fight. Still a sick fight. Maybe they even give Costa a title shot because he's popular. He's been putting in some good work. He's an exciting fighter, must-see TV every single time, and I don't hate it. Costa getting a title shot, to be honest with you. So put in a lot of work at middleweight. He's fought some of the best guys in the world. Impressive performance against Mirzakhanov. But anyway, sick fight. I'm excited for it, and the card's looking to be pretty good. So let me know what you guys think down below, man.